you, Larry, and hello, everyone. Welcome to Mindset Matters. My name is Leanne Cannon with Cannon Coaching and Connecting, reminding you that your mindset matters, and it matters a lot. Today, I'm thrilled to be able to introduce you to a brand new author, and she's talking about a very old subject, one that touches all of our lives, talking about mindset. This is our mindset wrapped around money. And money sets off a lot of triggers, and especially for Christians, because we've grown up with the idea that it's easier for a camel to get through the needle than a rich man to get into the kingdom, for example, right? We've been told that the love of money is the root of all evil. Also, you can't slave for two masters. You can't slave for like spirituality and riches. So all these things have kind of made us maybe afraid of money, maybe has caused some beliefs about money that has really held us back from making what we need. And so I am delighted to introduce Sadhari Berry, whose book is, now you're going to love the title, and I think you're going to probably want to run out and get it, because watch this. Her book is entitled For the Love of Money, Navigating Personal Finances with Stewardship and Faith. Piqued my interest. I'm going to give you a little background on Sadhari first, and then I'll ask her some questions about her book, the contents, and how it can help us. Okay? So professionally, she spent 15 years working for large banking companies, primarily working with corporations, helping them finance their businesses and expansion projects. In more recent years, she's been a stay-at-home mom raising her two sons who are now high school and college aged, and over recent years began writing her first book, which she officially published in 2020. During her corporate years, she gradually found herself more interested in the financial well-being of individuals like herself, and felt drawn to contribute to the field of financial wellness and education. So Sadhari lives with her family in Florida, and she's joining us here in Cleveland today. Welcome, Sadhari. Hello.
Thank you, Leanne. It's such a delight to be here with you today. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited, very excited to have you dive into your book and bless everybody with your information.
Thank you.
So what inspired you to write your book on finances?
Yes. Well, I'd love to share that because it's really, it's twofold. And the way I like to describe it is that I had an inspiration to write the book really to start with in the form of that nudge that comes from within. And it was years ago. So now we're 15 years ago. My children were very young and I was still in my prior career. And so I remember what we were doing. We were preparing to travel to our annual Christmas holiday with my husband's family. And so it was the aftermath of the chaos. You're packing up the car with two little kids and there's a whole lot going on. That is not that's not a calm moment for inspiration of any kind. But once we got settled into the car, we got on the drive. For some reason in that moment, I got this inspiration to write a book on personal finances. So the first inspiration came from the nudge from within. And at that point in my life, I was in no condition to be thinking about writing a book, right? I was juggling home and work and still in my career. And so I got the nudge, I got the inspiration, and I set it aside. And as would, often happens with things like that, it kept coming.
It wouldn't leave you alone, right?
It wouldn't leave me alone. I tried my best to go on with life and it wouldn't leave me alone. So fast forward a few years, I actually ended up retiring from my banking career, making the decision to come home full time. And once I settled into that new season of my life and began to reflect on, the 7 to 8 years that I was a working mom and the fact that I had then come home full time, I really began to connect the choices that I had been able to make being, creating a tremendous amount of balance and, excellent quality of life during the years I was working and then coming home, which was my desire. I really began to see the connection between the ability to make those choices and the choices that I had been making in prior years in my personal finances, my husband and I. And so, as I began to reflect on that and sort of see that, man, these are the things, that helped to propel me to this point and helped to create so much for my family. That is what inspired me to finally take that nudge seriously and do something with it and take it from just something that kept sitting in my mind, in my spirit, and start putting pen to paper, even though still at that time, I could not see how it would be possible to get it published. I mean, the end result seemed just
Probably daunting. Yeah.
daunting. It was. But so the inspiration came from within, the inspiration of the idea, the inspiration to take action came from really seeing that connectivity and deciding there's something here that maybe I could share with others and use to benefit others in their lives.
Yeah, well, we're so glad that you did. As a matter of fact, as you're talking about it, I'm thinking, could you give us an overview of what your book contains?
I can. And there are a couple ways, that I would describe it. So, the first way is simple. If you think about, a book that you might read to help you get your body in shape, I think of this as a financial fitness book.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. So that's the first way I would describe it. It is a book that will help you get fit in the area of your personal finances. Um, the other way I would describe it, though, Leanne, is that the book is an intersection between, our personal financial life and our faith life. And as you probably know, those are not generally topics that are discussed together.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah, we
It feels like an either or proposition,
right.
it's always
That's
felt that way.
exactly right. Yeah. So we're either talking about one or we're talking about, the other. And I think that really that is what makes this book unique. And that is what really distinguishes this book from, many other personal financial books that one might pick up, because we do in the book address what I call, the mechanics of handling our money, right? So what to do. But then we also talk about faith and belief, and how to apply that to our lives, to our financial lives. And oftentimes, even when we're applying our faith to other areas of our life, we're not applying it to our financial life.
Isn't that true? Yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah. So that's how that's the best way I would describe the book. And I would also say that, the book is a journey. So, it's a journey through building um, a lifestyle. So this is not a get rich quick scheme. This is about building a healthy financial lifestyle for a lifetime. Um, and so, we journey through things like assessing your current situation. We journey through the process of creating a vision for your financial life, what I like to call like, planting the seeds for your financial garden, and oftentimes people don't take that step because so often we don't even believe that certain things are possible. You know, we have like tunnel vision. And so,
Yes, that's so true.
yeah, we don't really take the time to think, what would I like to see happen? What would I like to, achieve in my financial life? So before we dive into, the mechanics of some of those traditional healthy habits with money, we address that. I address that in the book, and I kind of walk readers through a process to take that big picture step back first, and then we journey in, to the process of some tools and practices and specific actions that they can take to better handle choices and decisions about their money. And by that I mean the mechanics, right? Because there are just things you have to do. Money's coming in and money's going out, and
Yeah.
we have to make decisions about that. So there are the mechanical elements of that. And I share a lot of, my personal experiences, my approaches, and, ways that I have integrated my faith into my financial life along the way.
When you're talking about that people don't generally uh, apply the same principles to uh, finances as other areas of their life, um, and shoot for things. I think one reason is because they don't believe it's possible for them to get financially healthy. And maybe they may have grown up in struggle. Their family may have always struggled. And so now here they're adults and then they're struggling. It feels like it's just the way it is for me. And they see other people being financially healthy, but it doesn't feel like, it's possible for them. And then also people are skeptical about whether or not it's even right for them.
Mm-hmm.
I would ask you, who do you think would benefit the most from this book? It sounds like all of us could, but
Yes, well, that
you
that's
feel could benefit maybe the most from it?
Yeah, and like any book, I think it's one of those things where different people will derive different benefits. But it's interesting because when I first started writing the book, I actually started out writing towards a very specific demographic.
Okay.
And so I thought that's the direction I was going to go in. But the further I got into the process, the more it just kept coming back to me, exactly what you just said. This needs to be a universal message, because the thing is, very few of us are going to make it through life without having to deal with this topic, right? Very, very few.
You got that right.
So,
Absolutely.
there may be that anomaly out there. I haven't met her or him just yet, but the reality is it's something we all, have to deal with. And so as I continued, through the writing, I just settled on in my spirit that I really wanted to write a book that provided that universal message. And so this book really, I would say it's geared towards the adult reader. It's geared towards the adult reader who sort of already has some semblance of income coming in and expenses going out. They've got an established life of some sort that they're dealing with. That's not to say, that a younger reader, a mature younger reader couldn't get a head start. But generally speaking, it is constructed, for the adult reader who is established in their life in some way. But it's a book that can benefit readers of, adult readers of all ages and seasons of life. And it's a book that can benefit those of all incomes, because that is another, that's
That's
another.
important too.
It is, sometimes we often think that having the most money is always the solution. And that's a wonderful solution. But you could find someone making, $75,000 who's more financially fit than someone making twice that or more, because of the choices that they're making and the habits that they have developed in their lives. So
What a good point that is.
yeah.
And also I was thinking that someone in what I'm going to call a lower income bracket
Mhm.
or middle class might not feel like it would apply to them
Right,
because they don't have tons of money. But you're
right.
saying that's not the issue. It's your financial health with regard to your habits, right?
Your habits and your belief system and your faith. And, going back to what we talked about earlier, having some vision, things that we accomplish start with a thought and a vision. And sometimes if, you're in a situation that is a struggle or feels difficult or, feels tight, I think one of the most important things one might be able to do is establish a just start with a vision. It may not be a vision to make $1 million, but if you could just start with a vision that pushes you a little bit beyond where you are, then the universe can kind of pull you in that direction. So I think that's a great situation where that idea of the beginning of the book, where we talk about establishing that kind of vision in your mind before we even dive into the how and what to do.
Yes, I know Brian Tracy is a has been a business guru for decades, and one of the things that he's always said is you can't hit a target you can't see.
Yeah.
And so, as you were saying, get a goal first, and
Yeah.
then you can wrap your habits around achieving that goal. I
Mhm.
was also wondering, since this story really emanates from your own life,
Mhm.
what have been among the most beneficial, uh,
Mhm.
what do I want to say, benefits? I
Yes.
guess
Yeah.
I should say what have been the greatest benefits that you yourself have experienced in practicing these things in your own life.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, that's a great thing for me to talk about because, kind of going back to our earlier question, that was a part of what got me, off the couch, so to speak, right, to really tackle this task. And I would say, for me personally, um, the greatest benefit, I could write probably another book about the many benefits, to
No
tell
doubt.
the truth,
Book number
and
2
maybe I
on the
will.
horizon.
Maybe that's book number
You
2.
heard it first, people.
There you go. Right, right. Now, now I'm in. Uh, but I think I would definitely say, for me personally, based on some aspirations that were really meaningful to me, the greatest benefit that I've experienced has been, the balance and flexibility and quality of life that I was able to experience as a mom. And that was while I was working, the ability to create a flexible schedule and kind of pull back in my career, that had some financial implications at the time.
Sure.
But having done certain things for quite a number of years gave me the flexibility to do that when I reached, that season of my life, and ultimately the ability to come home and, talk about, when you start talking about faith, faith to take different leaps, in your life, that's a part of integrating faith into your personal choices, because oftentimes, we're called to do something we can't see financially how it can be possible. And so it holds so many people back. So there are really two sides of it. One is practicing certain habits in your life so you're better prepared for those leaps and those calls, but also having enough faith to take them when they arrive, even if you can't, you
That is huge, Sadari. That's huge. Yeah.
yeah, you can't. I mean, yes, you can look at and I talk about this in the book, you can look at your budget and you can crunch numbers all day long, but there are just some moments when you have to leap and you can't, the numbers are just not going to go out 20 and 30 years and make perfect sense.
It's not faith if it's all laid out,
Yeah, yeah,
you've seen, you make me think about the person who is walking off the cliff. I'm sure you've seen that illustration, and it looks like he's walking on nothing, but really it's like there's a glass
mhm,
bridge or something, but
mhm.
he didn't see it. It's like
That's
taking that step of faith out there. And the thing is when you do that, as we've talked about even before, things
Mhm.
work out. You
Things
know,
work out.
they just do.
Yeah. So it was, so that for me, that was the greatest benefit. The greatest benefit for me was having done certain things, what I call the mechanics, right? The habits, and having held those habits in my life for quite a number of years. So when I reached a certain stage, I was able to make some choices as a result of having done those things. But then also, I got to a point where there was a leap for me to take, right? And then, I was able to sort of lean into my faith and take that leap, even though mechanically it worked, but it worked kind of, but you
To a point.
to a point, it works to a point. And
So would you say that that is what led you to include the faith portion?
yeah, well, that's a part of it. That's a part of it. But really, I would say that's kind of a multi, I mean, a few different reasons too. That's a big part of it because I have had, those times in my life where I've had to take a leap of faith where I couldn't see, all the answers. You can't see how it's all going to work out. And, one of the things I talk about too is that, we weren't necessarily the people with the most money, like but we were making the most of our money, utilizing, the tools and the practices that I share in the book. But a couple of the reasons why I included faith as a part of the book, the first reason is that honestly, Leanne, as I was writing the book, I didn't start out with the intention of including faith in the book. Let me just say
Oh,
that.
is that right?
I did not. No,
Okay.
when the idea came to me to write a book about personal finances. So I embark on this project, something I've never done before. And that's kind of what I have in my mind. But as I was writing, and then, you kind of write and you write. And then once you start to go back and read and edit, what I found is that the idea of faith was all over the book and my
Oh,
experiences. And so I didn't start out that way. It just sort of happened. And then I realized that was a part of the message. That was a part of what I was delivering and that it was very integral. But I
it
don't think
morphed into more.
yes, it morphed into something that I didn't start with. And I don't even think that I was totally conscious of the application of my faith into that part of my life. So, you're doing something, but you don't quite realize the degree to which you're doing it.
Okay.
And so that was when there was like an aha moment where I realized this is such a big part of my life. And I saw it much more clearly once I had put pen to paper.
Isn't that always the way?
Yeah.
That is so
Yeah.
true.
So that's
Sometimes things come out of you you don't even know was in there.
you didn't. I did. So no, I didn't realize on a completely conscious level that all of that was happening. And then, but as I started to edit and then continue on, I then became much more intentional about thinking, okay, what have I been doing? How have I been doing that? And really looking, thinking about more specific things in my life, because what I realized is that it's this area of our life that is probably elicits the most fear and the most
For
struggle and the
sure.
most
Yeah.
anxiety. And
It
so,
has probably caused more sleepless nights than
yeah,
almost anything else.
anything. And physical, when you think about the physical, impact of that. And so as I was reflecting on what had naturally, come out of me in my writing, I then began to realize how important that was. And I certainly, I certainly have not been immune to worry or anxiety, in my life. But what I found is that my faith had been the thing I was leaning on or coming back to. That was the thing that was helping to lessen or alleviate those emotions when they did arise. And so I thought, if that's what's helping me, then certainly, it could help others.
Wow, that is so powerful. How did you find yourself adopting healthy money habits in your life?
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of an interesting story, and it's I now realize that the how for me is probably uh divinely connected to, why I'm even here writing this, having written this book, and starting to talk about this. And we all do, like you alluded to this earlier, we all have so many different money stories, some serving
Indeed.
us, yeah, and some serving us well and some not serving us well, um, for sure. But what's interesting for me is my money story in terms of what I learned in my childhood was very neutral. And so what I mean by that is I really didn't learn anything. Okay, so it was, but I
That
did.
probably served you.
I didn't learn anything constructive, like, intentionally. No one was talking to me about it, but I also didn't really learn anything negative.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
Yeah. So
that
it was,
actually served you.
yeah. So it was a very neutral thing. But what I did find is that at a very, very young age, and I'm saying like high school, I can remember when I started having part-time jobs as a high school student. I remember going and opening my bank accounts. I remember, at the credit union near my neighborhood, like kind of, I remember the whole process. And I remember just very naturally gravitating to doing certain things. I mean, I was very ritualistic about balancing my checkbook, which nobody does in the way that we did it.
I know that's
Back
right.
then, I mean, we had the little booklet, and it was every little
Yep.
line
Remember
item.
those days, yeah.
And I found myself like just gravitating to wanting, saving money. And so there were a lot of things that they just came naturally, even though I had not been taught them. And a really funny story, I was just at my mom's house recently, and I noticed in her garage, she has this old stereo system that I saved up for as a high school as a
Oh,
high school student
wow.
purchase. But I remember thinking I wanted this big ticket item, at the time, which it seemed like, it cost just an enormous amount of money, but I remember saving for it. And, that was a whole big deal. And she used it for years after I left for college. She kept it and used it. But I really did just, a lot of the things I was doing, they were coming very naturally.
Hmm.
I hadn't read
That,
a book.
and that is something that doesn't happen really for most people, and why I believe that your book, with those mechanics as well as the faith, will serve so many. I do have to say that we are going to be having to wrap up, and so and because of that, I absolutely want people to know how to connect with you and find
Absolutely.
out more about, purchase your book, Sadhari. So how can they reach you?
Well, a couple things. One, they can find the book in all of the major online retail outlets, such as Amazon and Barnes and Noble, Apple Books. But in addition to the book, I also do share tips and inspiration and encouragement on Facebook and Instagram, so they can connect with me on social media if
Good.
they desire more than what they might read in the book. And I'm easy to find. They can find me at Sadhari Berry. It's just my name. And I will, if you don't mind, I'll just give
Please show it.
the
Yes.
viewers kind of a sneak peek here. This is the front of the book, For the Love of Money. And yeah, so they can connect with me, like I said, through purchase of the book and through my social media platforms.
Well, thank you so very much for being here,
Thank
Sadhari.
you. I appreciate it.
Congratulations on your book, and I know that it will have a wonderful impact with
Thank you.
so many people. Yeah,
Thank you, Leanne.
absolutely. Well, I want to thank all of you for being with us today, and I have an unusual plug for a company I have just recently gotten connected with, and that is Morgan and Lemke Dental. Um, well, I don't practice, I'll just say. They're in Independence. In any case, I'm singing their praises because I have been having some dental work with them, and they're doing wonderful. And I just wanted to let everybody know, if you're looking for somebody, see, this is way outside of what I do, but I'm telling you, they're just awesome. So I wanted to plug them. That's Morgan and Lemke in Independence, if you want to look them up. In the meantime, connect with me on social media, or on call me or text me, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time on Mindset Matters. Bye for now.